Rest is productive. Let's get into the episode today about mental wellness tips for self care. Welcome back to Uprooted Community, where we talk about all things faith and mental health. I am Omotoke Adewale, licensed marriage and family therapist, bringing you all the things faith and mental health. Thank you so much for joining me today again. We are going to jump right in. Our opening quote today is rest is productive. And today we're going to talk about just some self care tips to help us with maintaining our mental wellness because this is so important. We live in a society, a culture that really harps on just grinding and working and working and working, that a lot of people have not realized or kind of missed the fact that resting and taking care of yourself is actually very productive, and it's very much vital to sustaining not just your mental wellness and your emotional wellness, but also even your physical wellness, right? And your mental health and your physical health work very much hand in hand. And when one is suffering or not doing so well, it can affect the other. So today I'm going to share just some tips that you can utilize daily, weekly, monthly, just as part of your self-care kind of routine. All right. So the first thing I want you to think about is the fact that self-care is self-love. So when you are caring for yourself, when you're taking care of your body, when you're taking care of your mind, your emotions, that is self-love, right? So it's very important for us to remember that when we care for ourselves, we are actually pouring love into ourselves. Okay. And caring for yourself can also mean doing what is hard or unfamiliar, right? But necessary. So sometimes part of self care is being able to look at the areas in which maybe we haven't been consistent, the areas in which maybe we've been lacking in, and being able to shift from a familiar place that we're used to kind of being in to an unfamiliar place that can help us with growth and doing what is necessary, right? So being able to shift from sometimes a comfortable space to an uncomfortable space that can help to expand us and grow us, right? So caring for yourself sometimes means taking that hard look, right? And being able to recognize the areas in which you might need to make some changes. Okay. And loving yourself is caring for yourself, and caring for yourself is loving yourself. And self care also requires discipline. We live in the social media kind of culture sometimes shows self care just as like the mani pedis or the spa days or the massages or the vacations, right? Flying yourself out and doing all these things. And yes, those things are part of self care, absolutely. However, in addition to that, self care also requires discipline, right? And sometimes engaging in self care means doing things that don't feel easy, right? Doing things that might mean that we need to change some things in our routine, in our day to day practices, in order to be able to appropriately care for ourselves, right? And sometimes motivation can be the enemy of discipline. And what that means is sometimes a lot of us wait until we feel motivated to engage in self care or to do the things that are necessary to keep caring for ourselves. We wait to feel motivated to do it. And sometimes it's better to uh, have a mindset of discipline rather than waiting until you feel like it. So, one thing I always tell some of my clients that I work with is that action precedes feeling, right? So, what that means is that we cannot wait till we feel like it sometimes, especially if you deal with things like depression, anxiety, or just any other like mental health challenges. If you wait until you feel like it, you might not ever feel like it, right? However, when we act first, the feeling follows, right? So, what that means is we engage in the action first, and then we can feel better. We can feel motivated. We can feel motivated. We can feel like we have evidence and something to look for or look at when we are having those hard days later on, right? So those actions that you are engaging in is kind of like the blueprint that you are kind of creating in terms of just your self-care and your daily habits and routine. Okay. So self-care requires self-discipline. All right. That's a little nugget. Okay, so let's get into some tips here that again you can utilize in your day to day, or you can utilize, you can have it as like a weekly, wellness tips kind of checklist, or monthly, just whatever works for you. And I would also love to hear from you all, what are some of your like self-care practices or just mental wellness practices, things that you do, things that are in your, daily routines, weekly routines that kind of help to keep you grounded and keep you going. Okay. So the first one that I have here is to set realistic goals. A lot of us sometimes set goals, especially when it comes to, our either our mental wellness or even like jobs or just, just daily goals that pertains to your personal life. Sometimes we don't set goals that are realistic, right? Especially if you're someone like me who is a little bit of a on the side of a perfectionist. Sometimes we set goals that we cannot reach, right? And it becomes this like self-fulfilling prophecy of setting a goal that you cannot attain, and then it further proves to you that you cannot meet that goal, and then you further remain stuck, right? So it's very important for us to set realistic goals, goals that we can reach, goals that are attainable, right? There's something called SMART goals, right? So they're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're timely, right? So what that means is that when we set those goals, it is something that we can achieve. So if it's a daily goal, right, you don't want to set a goal that you know is going to take you a week to complete or 2 days, right? You want to set a goal that you can do for that day or for that week or for that month, right? So it's very important for us to make our goals realistic so that we're not biting off more than we can chew, right? And the second tip is to move your body, right? This is so important when it comes to our self care and our mental wellness. And when we get into a frequent routine and habit of moving our bodies, it can really help with regulating our system, helping us to decompress, de stress, right? Exercise has been found through research to really help our not just our physical health, but also our mental health, right? Because remember what I said earlier, our physical health and our mental health work hand in hand together, right? So when you exercise and you move your body, it really helps in terms of regulating and taking care of yourself, right? And when we experience emotions, right, something I also tell my clients is that when you look at the word emotions, it has the word motions in it, right? And that's because emotions are physiological, right? So meaning you experience it and you carry it in your body, right? And it moves through your body. So when you engage in exercise, when you move your body, it helps to regulate and move those emotions, kind of work them through your body rather than them kind of being stuck within your body, right? So it's very important for us to move our body. I think research says uh, taking like a 20-minute walk daily can be very, very beneficial to not just your physical health again, but also your mental health. So move your body, and you can feel it when you don't do it, right? I'm going to call myself out for a second. Uh, so I've been getting back into working out at least like 2 to 3 days a week. And this past week, it was a week for me. A little bit of ups and downs. And I think I only worked out once or twice this week. I think I skipped a few days. And I think it was like yesterday or so that I started to feel like, yeah, I can feel that I didn't work out. And I didn't just feel it in my body, but I could feel it just in my mood, right? That something in my self-care kind of routine was missing. And I realized it was because I didn't work out. I skipped some of my days this week, right? So moving your body is a very, very important, vital aspect to your mental wellness. And like I said, when you gain some consistency with it, you start to feel it. You start to notice when you haven't done it, right? So move your body. Don't be like me this week. The next one is to manage stress before burnout, right? Some of us have this conception that it's not until you're burnt out or it's not until you're completely stressed that you need to respond or to do something, right? So we want to be proactive rather than reactive, right? So we want to get into a routine, in our day to day lives where we are effectively managing stress, right? And not waiting until we run ourselves into the ground to address, burnout or stress, right? So what that means is doing things, implementing resources, implementing um, ideas, right? Implementing just routines into your daily kind of like structure or weekly structure to help you with stress management, right? So what that means is doing things, right, such as like some examples I can give, that I again give to some of my clients is when you have like your calendar for work for the day, right? Making sure you have things in your calendar, whether it's your daily calendar or weekly calendar, that is immovable, right? So if it's like your, weekly therapy appointment, if it's just to make sure that you take lunch, right? Um, at every time, right? Every day. Like that's part of managing stress, right? A lot of people come into therapy because of work stress, right? Because of being in a stressful environment. But I think a lot of it actually has to do with the ways in which people are not managing their stress, not because the environment isn't stressful, but the lack thereof of doing things to be proactive in managing stress, such as taking breaks, drinking water. I'm laughing at myself because I have a hard time with this. I'm still working on it myself, right? Taking breaks, drinking water, exercising, right? Asking for help, not taking on more assignments than you can actually do, right? So, really checking those boxes and making sure that you are not waiting until you're crashing and burning before you now, take a break or ask for help, right? Or take things off your plate. So please be proactive rather than reactive and make sure that you are managing stress before you burn out. Okay. The next tip is to identify one positive moment each day. So, the way we start and end our day is so vital to your mental wellness, right? So, what you do first thing in the morning, and also what you do as far as your sleep hygiene and, some of your last moments in your evening or before you go to bed, right? So, something that I do is I have a gratitude journal that I typically will write in. And it's called the 5 minute journal, a 5 minute gratitude journal. So it literally takes 5 minutes or less to complete, right? So it gives you prompts and it asks questions around, things you're grateful for, people, moments throughout the day, right? So that's one way to really make sure that you are, taking care of yourself is remembering that part of self-care, right, is being able to recognize those, daily accomplishments, right? Those things in your day that has gone well, things that you're grateful for, right? And when we do that, it moves us into the next day, right? And then so on. So that's why the way that we start and end our day is so important. So look for one positive moment. You identify one thing that went well each day, and that can really, help to shape your self-care and your mental wellness journey. All right. And then this next one is very important, and it's taking intentional moments of silence. So many of us, are so kind of like glued to our devices, right? And we're always doing something. We're working, we're on the phone, we are watching TV, we're just always doing something, right? So it's very important, no matter, even if it's just a few minutes, of you just like sitting in silence, meditating, reflecting, thinking, praying, whatever it is, just taking moments of silence that is intentional, taking a mindfulness walk, right? Where you don't take your phone or you don't look at your phone and you're really able to take in the environment. This is something that I really, really treasure, that I try to do as often as I can because of how vital and important it is, and also how I see how much like noise, I guess, is around me and sometimes within me, right? So when I'm able to take those intentional moments of silence, it really helps to reset me and to help me to just reflect and kind of come back, right? So for yourself, take moments, right? I would say daily, honestly, where you just have a few minutes where you just have intentional silence, no, gadgets, no talking to anybody, just to yourself with your thoughts, to really help you with, some of that grounding, right? And the last one, this one will sound funny, but it is very important. Remember what I said earlier is self-care is self-love, right? And this last one is important because I think a lot of people's struggles with self-care, taking care of themselves, taking breaks, just doing things for you to pour back into yourself is because we have so much that we're carrying within us that don't even belong to us, right? We're carrying other people's opinions, other people's beliefs, assumptions that we've made about what we think someone else is thinking or feeling or whatever. We just carry that around, right? And the last self care tip that I have on here is to not take things personally. Do not take things personally. I think a lot of us, can be a little bit self centered, right? And when we look at maybe interactions, relationships, things that happen at work, we tend to really like make it about ourselves, right? And the more you can let things go, the more you can make sure that things don't stick to you, the more you're able to really have a clear mind, and it can really help in your self-care and your mental wellness. So making sure that you're not taking things personally, you're not carrying as much as you can, not carrying work home, right? And really making sure that you are taking those intentional moments to, reflect, like I mentioned earlier, moving your body, right? Setting realistic goals, managing stress before burnout, so being proactive rather than reactive, and identifying one positive moment each day. All these things will help with cultivating a healthy self-care routine, right? And like I said earlier, if you have any self-care tips or things that you have in your kind of daily or weekly routine, share it so that other people can maybe get some ideas from it. I can get some ideas from it. So don't be stingy, share. All right, so that's all I have for you today. We're going to do the closing quotes, which I think really captures everything that we just talked about today. And that is, self-care is not an expense, but it's an investment, right? So it's very important for us to remember that when we care for ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we pour back into ourselves, it is an investment that you're making, right? And, with that investment, you get to benefit from that. And other people around you get to benefit from that, right? There's another quote that says you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So it's very important that we take care of ourselves first, because doing that allows us to be present, for the people around us and be able to take care of other people, right? That maybe, look to us or depend on us for that. But you do have to care for yourself first in order to care for other people, right? So, which is why self care is the best investment that you can provide to yourself, okay? Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode today about self-care, mental wellness tips. And like I said earlier, don't forget to share below, in the comments, or send me a message about any tips, that you utilize. And also don't forget to share this video, share this episode with your friends, your loved ones, anyone you think can benefit from it. Sharing is caring, y'all. Okay. Some of you watch the video, you tell me that you appreciate it and it's really helpful, but you're not sharing it, so you're being stingy. All right, so please make sure that you are sharing, so that others can also benefit from this really great information, and also that I can benefit from what you all have to say as well. All right, so like, subscribe, share, all the things, and until we meet again, continue to be well, do well, and live well.